So, we have got the 2023 Scorpa here, right in front of me. I will, before I say anything else, this bike here, I believe, is still a prototype. Isn't quite what the production bike will be, but as far as I'm aware, it's not that far from what the production bike will be. I thought I'd take the opportunity to talk through the bike and just share a bit of information about it and give you my thoughts, because as you might have seen, or you will see, it's got 43 hours on it, which 20 or so hours of that is me on the bike this week, so you can probably see some crash damage. So, you know, we keep it real, it's not perfect. Right, I'm going to start talking with the heart of this bike, the engine, and obviously the new fuel injected system. I don't know if you can see, but this cylinder has quite a unique surface on it. It's not flat, I'd say bigger surface area, and that has a 24% increased cooling performance. Okay, so the actual whole engine of this bike is 4.5 kilograms lighter than the engine on the old bike. So that is a massive, massive weight saving, which makes it so much more nimble. It does exactly what you want it to do. So obviously, this part here doesn't quite look as it did on the old bike. We've got a 32mm fuel injection system with obviously the throttle body here, and as far as I'm aware and what I've been told, it's fairly simple. Since I've been out here riding, I've not had any problems with the fuel injection. It's been fine. Gearbox, it is still a 5-speed, which some people say they prefer 6-speed, but having done a fair decent amount of riding, the ratios are different to the 2022 bike. It's similar, I'd say, in first, second and third, but fourth is now a lot more usable. I'm not quite sure whether it's due to the torque of the engine, but definitely on a hill climb I've been doing earlier in the week, it pulled fourth gear, whereas the old bike wouldn't. So that is definitely a bonus. So that gear lever is 118 grams lighter than last year's gear lever, and it's also got an anti-mud hinge. There should be less mud getting stuck in your gear lever. So I've flipped the bike around, and now on this side of the engine we've got the obviously inner and outer clutch cover, which is made of magnesium, so obviously that is a weight saving. We've also got a sight glass so you can check your oil, which is always very handy, and there's an internally mounted water pump, which means the coolant has no contact to the actual magnesium itself. Obviously behind this casing is the clutch, which now holds only 450 mils of oil compared to 600, or 600 I used to run on the old bike. And there's now also the pressure plate, which you can change to plus or minus to make the clutch feel faster or a bit slower. So that's another nice feature to adjust the bike to suit your riding. Not good. So in the heart of the engine, there's been a change as well. The new crankshaft in this bike is 113 grams lighter than the previous engine. The crankshaft has increased to 116 millimeters in diameter, which helps create inertia, which means the engine does perform very nicely. Obviously, one of the key parts of the bike that houses the engine is the new frame. Obviously all new for this year. It is 365 grams lighter than the old frame, so another big weight saving there. We've also got these detachable down rails, which I know some people do like them, so you can detach them and it makes easy access to work on the bike. The geometry of the bike has changed, so it's a little bit lower at the front. However, it still allows us good grip. I've found it good grip in loose terrains, and the bike also feels very planted, which when it feels planted, it makes it so much more comfortable to ride. Here we've got a new fet peg. I think this one is a little bit bent from one of my crashes, but offers really good grip and nice big holes, which will allow mud to drop straight out in the UK, which is very nice. Similar, but definitely new silencer for this year's bike. It has an increased internal volume of 35%, which does what? Which increases obviously the torque, and it's got increased strength as well, so a bit sturdier than last year's bike. is also, they say this silencer now should be much easier to repack, so no excuses for your bike sounding rubbish. So, new clamps for this year. They're about 30 grams lighter than last year's clamps. Also, you can see there's a nice bit of material, and when you look, they've got nice little holes in. The bolts are on the back this year, so if you're looking for the bolts, they're on the back. There's a couple of nice little plastic stoppers, so you won't go marking your frame. And also, I've probably inserted a clip. Your map switches are just on top here on a nice little bracket. So, map switch and a light switch. Completely new plastics for this year, which I think look really nice. The tank has a capacity of 2.2 litres, which is more than enough for your average trial, and it was discussed that there might be a bigger tank as like a Scotch 6 days option or a Scott option, so for your longer trials you should be okay. And obviously the rear mudguard here is still nice and flexible, but a bit more rigid, so in those trials where you've got lots of mud, it shouldn't be flopping around all over the place. So, to anyone who does a lot of work on their bikes, this is a new linkage update for this year, quite similar to another type of bike, but I think it is a lot better than the old type of bike. So there's only one dog bone, so when you come to grease it, you've got less to do. So no excuses as well now for not greasing your linkage. While I'm in this area, as standard, we've got the Riga 3-way shock, which I haven't touched, so yeah, there shouldn't be any complaints about that either. Here we have the new radiator system, which has a nice long filler spout, but also the radiator is mounted on hinges. So you undo the 8mm up here, tip it forward, and then with a 5mm Allen key, you can very easily check your coolant. Although the radiator is the same size as the old bike, it is more efficient, so the bike does stay cooler. You probably noticed I changed the GoPro here. The battery in the big camera died, so I would have filmed it on that, but I can't. Two things I forgot to, or didn't get to say. Brake pedal. Probably you've seen a clip of it, but I haven't actually spoken about it. I would say this is one of my favourite parts of this new bike. It is so, what's the word, supportive. You get such good feeling on the back brake, which I feel like any trials rider, you should have good control on the brakes and the clutch. That's some of the main things you should. So you're gonna have good feel, and it's a nice solid pedal. Yeah, and it's got some nice grip on the tip as well. So I think that is one of my favourite bits of this new bike. It is very nice. This year, the engine, or should I say, the way the engine has been designed with the kickstart here, it works with a bark gear, which is, from what I know, a gear that's only got like a few teeth on. It's not a complete round gear, and that slides across into the other gears which turn to then start the bike. And it is to be noted just to take your time when starting the bike. So the bike is hot now, but usually on a cold start for me, 3 or 4 kicks and it does start. But yeah, it's important just to take your time between kicks. Just a nice firm kick. A nice firm kick like that should start the bike, but it's just important. So you need to make sure it's a controlled, strong kick, so the gears obviously meet correctly, because I don't want any of you damaging your bikes. Not that it is a problem. So once you get your new 2023 bikes, just take it steady on the kickstart. Don't go getting it too excited. So if it doesn't start first kick, which mine has twice in a row now, just let the kickstart come back up, give it a second before you kick it again.